Hello, this is your host Akhil Navluri, and welcome to the brand new episode of the TechOSpace podcast series. In this podcast episode, I'm super thrilled and honored to be collaborating with one of the most eminent and prominent industry leaders of the IT space and the quality consulting space, Mr. Rafal Dobrosielski, who happens to be the managing quality consultant of the big reputed company Capgemini, and he's also the teaching assistant, Department of Software Engineering at Gdańsk University of Technology, and he's based out of Gdynia, Poland. Rafal, it gives me an absolute pleasure to welcome you to this podcast episode of mine. Rafal, how are you doing? And how are things in Gdynia, and I mean, in your hometown right now?
Hello, thank you, Akil, for this introduction. Gdynia, we have a winter, so we have a little bit of snow, and the temperature is minus something, so it's much different than last few years, where it was quite much hotter, actually.
Mhm.
And it
So
is
probably,
Saturday morning.
okay, that's very good. So I think you have all your weekend plans ready for now. Very
Exactly.
good. Very good, Rafal, and it's very good to know that the snow is getting. I mean, that snow feeling is coming to a coming to a close, because too much snow is also not so good. Sometimes you need to have the the balance of both the weathers. So I totally understand that.
Yeah, the water is there.
All right, perfect, Rafal. So Rafal, without any further ado, let's kick off with our podcast segment. I'm really looking forward for this segment and having a great conversation with you. So yes, Rafal. So now, Rafal, can you give me a timeline, of your journey in the IT space?
Akil, actually, I think we can say it was less a career ladder on my side. It was more like a sequence of responsibilities, I would say. I started really close to the ground. Manual deployment of the software, implementing that into the user's field, and really facing the situation that the reality of it works on the paper versus it survives contact with the user was something which shaped me a lot. And then I moved to the QA roles where you learn something brutal but also a beautiful. Um, so now for me, quality is not a department; it is a system of the decisions. I was working for top use companies like United Technologies with pleasure, General Electric, Amazon for a while, and now I'm bringing that into Capgemini company as well. Also, I'm using this at the Technical University, as you mentioned,
Yeah, yeah.
actually the two, right?
Mhm.
So this experience about software implementation, quality models, ensuring the business value, it's being, managed on my side for actually 25 years already.
Wow, that's a very good journey. I mean, that's lovely to hear, and that's a beautiful timeline. Now, Rafal, you told me that starting when you started your journey, you were in the manual deployment kind of a scenario. But when you moved into the quality consulting space, did you have some kind of hesitance to move, or were you like I'll go with the flow? Like, what was your opinion back then?
The satisfaction is coming from there, from ensuring the quality, ensuring the real value. So it was not a hesitation. It was just following what was driving me, right? So mostly following my source of the satisfaction, making sure that we are producing something useful.
That's
That
pretty
would
good,
be the answer.
Absolutely. And I see a lot of passion in you, Rafal, and trust me, your passion will make this podcast segment much more interesting. And I'm really, really, getting the best of answers from you. So this is really a good one to hear from your end. Now, Rafal, why do you think, without psychological safety, there is no truth about risk? And having said that, without truth about risk, why do you think the quality engineering becomes a theater?
Theater. Yes, I will repeat it blindly. If people can't speak the truth, I think you don't have the quality. You have the performance, or as you mentioned, theater. Psychological safety is not softness, I would say. It's a really engineering control. Uh, it determines whether risks signals can travel through the system without being censored by fear, status, or internal politics. When safety is missing, people start optimizing appearances, green dashboards. We are fine meetings. I really like it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Optimistic estimates, silence instead of the escalations. And then quality engineering becomes really a theater. You produce artifacts that control look like a control, but you don't have. You don't produce the control.
Hmm.
Testing becomes a ritual. Reporting becomes sedative, and yeah, organization slowly loses contact with the reality. Uh, I have learned to treat psychological safety like I would say prerequisites for quality management and risk management, because risk is not a number; it's a conversation, uh, and the conversion um, that you are either allowed to have the real information
Yep.
and or you are getting what you expect optimistically. And
Hmm.
yeah, that's a theater. That's a good word.
Absolutely. So it's probably like a theater only. Now, I mean, and the way you're explaining about it, it really gives the justification to be like one of the theater because there has to be a realism and you cannot fake, when it comes to the quality. So I totally understand by that. Now, when we talk about green dashboards, many people see, I might understand the concept of a green dashboard, but for our audience, how would you like to, explain that terminology when it comes to the boardroom meeting?
Yeah, green dashboard is in my meaning it is something which is calibrated, refined to bring the optimistic value. And also, green dashboard means we assume by default that it is okay. Either
Mm-hmm.
we have a proven that it is not, so it is, but I prefer a little bit different thinking, kind of thinking that we have uh, all of that of all our stuff red, and we need to prove it that it is green, right? The
Yes.
opposite.
Absolutely, absolutely. That completely, sums up my point, or let's say my query about it. Now, Rafal, what were the lessons that you have learned from large IT environments, and turning them into turning them into practical, takeaways for leaders and teams, focusing on the likes of TMAP Voice and Victory, which is like V square I tree QI presence.
Um, okay, thank you for this very question. I would say large environments teach you one very important law. Um, Quality fails most often in the seams, in the borders between teams, between system, between roles, between data. Um, we can rephrase it in a different ways, but it will really means still the same. Quality fails most often in the
Yeah, yeah,
seams.
yeah.
Quality
100%.
is a leadership system. It's not a test system, uh,
Yeah.
right? So if leadership can't speak and reward the truth, quality will know will root no matter how good the tools are, right? The other lessons learned is which I really believe in is risk must be linked to the value. Uh, Otherwise, nobody will care. So people don't fight for fighting the defects. The teams I was working when I saw the motivation, they fight uh, for loss, like loss of the trust of themselves or their reputation, loss of money, the user time, uh, safety, and at the end, loss of the satisfaction, right? If we do not have the satisfaction, um, we we are losing that by default because not doing the job correctly. Um, then we are losing the motivation, we are losing the satisfaction both at the same time. So
Hmm.
risk must be linked to the value. That would be the second lesson. Um, the other lesson is you need both shift left, as people in IT used to say, but also shift right. Shift left, of course, reduces uncertainty on the technical side. Shift right watches reality after the release without monitoring your software and your value in the field. You are just guessing that you are succeeding, and you are getting the real information really late. What else? Yeah, over the time, IT was changing, and today I can say cross-functional ownership is something which is non-negotiable. DevOps
Okay.
culture
Hmm.
is not, developers doing the ops, but it also means, or it's really means teams owning outcomes. So reliability, recovery, user impact. That's what, and also measurement of the value. And that's the point when where the voice model of the TMAP from the Sogeti comes to the equation. Voice as a model, very simple one. We can introduce that in 1 minute, which stands for value, then O for objectives, which are creating both the meaning. Then we have I as the indicators, which are creating the visibility. C for confidence, which is earned by measuring these indicators. And then we have experience, which needs to be monitored to check if what we planned to deliver as a value is really bringing, the money, the time, reducing the waste on the customer side. Um, Trying to conclude the lessons learned over the time. Um, in big systems, you don't scale quality by adding, detective quality means. You scale it by uh, organizing true ownership and really learning culture, I would say. Yeah.
All right. That completely, gives me an idea on that. Now,
What is now becoming very important is communication skills. To be able to talk to the user, to be empathetic, to understand what really helps the user to solve the problems, to be able to abstract the problems to the, let's say, personas level, to spend time with the users, go to the deployment of your software, um, maybe even spend a day with your user and check
yes.
what
Mhm.
is frustrating him. So communication skills, um, possibility to talk, to understand, and really empathy is something what I would suggest in this let's say today world, to develop. What else? Also understanding how we can measure value. Even yesterday, when I was trying to get the project from the students, they have a value. How it was the value that they were designing the system which was supposed to reduce the cost of the chaos of the administrator of the building, without the details, but reduce the cost of the chaos. And then in the indicators, they don't really propose any indicator what that would mean to reduce the
Mm.
chaos of the building administrator, of the cost of the chaos. And we have a very good discussion for 30 minutes, and then define it really to propose to the administrator saying, okay, today we're starting measure the cost of the chaos you have until the software is being delivered. And after, we will measure that automatically and we compare if it is really, if it pays off for you, right? To maintain the license of the software for next years. And yeah, that's what we are something really forget, that it needs to pay off. It needs to bring the value. Even not each time it is money, um, sometimes it is just a satisfaction. Sometimes that's a pleasure. That's
Yep.
a dopamine, whatever. But it needs to bring this value, and you can measure that. Mm.
Absolutely. That's a beautiful advice, Rafal, and really I love this use case, that was just narrated by you. Now, Rafal, in your background, I've seen I can see the QI presence, and it's somewhere in the script of a Asian language. I'm not pretty sure like which language it is, but and again, I see some background, where you are somewhere in the somewhere in the banks of the river. So tell me about this. Like, what is with the with the screen that's behind you?
Um, yeah, thank you for referring to that. QI, it is actually a chi, right? It's a chi and energy. It's a Chinese. Um, I really believe that the flow of the energy through the teams in the contact between the teams which are delivering the value and the users, and also our satisfaction is coming from the energy flowing um, for the goodness around us, right? That is a chi. And present, this is really being focused on the reality. When we are talking, I'm really with you, but it's more important when you are talking to your customer to listen what he needs, right? I learned a lot that I was thinking I know what you need, and I will deliver you a feature which is very beautiful, and we delivered that for let's say one example for the international Doha airport. It is Hamad International Airport. We delivered, a very synchronous CCTV dashboard of the cameras, which were the recordings, which were really synchronized. And the customer is telling me, but I don't need it to be very synchronized. I need to see in one dashboard when the person is entering the airport, when he is leaving the luggage, and when he is leaving the airport, right? And I would like to have an evidence of all of that, but I don't need
Yeah.
that he's entering and the empty, uh, you know, mm, mm, arrival launch and this kind of. So I was thinking that I'm preparing something beautiful, and it was not actually. So
Hmm.
yeah.
That's interesting. That's a pretty good use case, and that's very much insightful. Now, Rafal, like, can you give me an insight, into the three patterns, that hide risk, plus those four techniques, that people can apply immediately, that talks about risk, truth, questions, value that is equivalent to risk, linking, leading indicators, and decision rules. Like, the list goes on and on.
Uh, for the techniques, let's start from those. Uh, we will talk about a lot of about the risk, but I will keep repeating that. Um, the very simple technique is, develop your risk truth questions, which are uh, making you to speak about the reality. Use questions that force signal. For example, what would you make this fail in production? What would make this fail in production? Uh, what are the what we are currently guessing? So what we are not sure of, right? What do you know yet? What don't you know yet, right? Um, mm, where you are pretending that this kind of very open questions are also one of the techniques. Second one I mentioned, it was value versus risk linking, um, saying, which it translates technical uncertainty into the business loss. So, for example, if performance degrades, what customer promise breaks, right? If data is inconsistent, what financial outcome is threatened.
Hmm.
That's very important to make sure that your team really understands. So linking these risks on certainty, technical uncertainty to the value. Um, Another technique might be, to keep a kind of leading indicators for the moment of your delivery of your development of the software. You cannot measure everything. Uh, Measuring is a cost as well, right? And it's a hidden cost, but people need to spend time on measuring and then following and then reasoning based on the metrics. So what I'm trying to convince to the teams is, let's keep one leading indicator for the moment, right? Pick small signals for the phase you are, um, that you can based on which you can predict failure early, but in the phase we really are, right? If it is
Yeah.
let's say mm, innovative product, right?
Mm.
Um, for the first time, you need to be very empathetic with your customers and to measure their, let's say, satisfaction or willingness of use, then stickiness, then virality. If your customers are promoting the product across their environment to the colleagues, then if they are coming back. So all of that is a leading indicator for the moment, for the phase of the development of the product you are. Uh, what else? Mm, the fourth technique would be, which I really like, a very simple one, but we sometimes forget about it. Decision rules, right? So we need to have this upfront of the project. Why it is important? Because under the pressure, we can very easily change it, or there is a willingness of to do some flexibility. But if we have a really agreed and strict rules, you can say we will not enter the UAT testing phase if SAT is not being finished.
Mm.
And when X happens, only the Y can happen, right?
Yes, yes,
Um, because under the
that's true.
pressure, you
Mm.
are very willing. Okay, we have a little bit of the SIT still running, but we can start with the user journey. Maybe not. Okay, I'm not saying it is always the true, but front, if you know your risks and if you know your needs, make it in writing and then keep it. But adapt to the context. So I wouldn't say there are uh, generic decision rules. It needs to be adapted to the context. So let's agree them front. Pressure happens. Like
Absolutely. What I was trying to say is, suppose, before your thing goes on go live and you have the UAT process of from the user's end, that they have to do the user acceptance test. So during that time, before you're giving it to the UAT and you're having some kind of, complexity, and you're running out of time. So how do you, manage that entire situation?
you have many possibilities. First of all, you need to be very honest with your customer, right? And as I said, if you have the risk being linked to the value, you can always make a constructive discussion. So, dears, we have this kind of risk which is affecting this part of the value. What we are going to do, we can reduce a little bit the value, we can reduce the scope, we can try, of course, a little bit delay, but sometimes it is not the possibility because uh, to 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 really make money on the software or just win with your competitors, you need the software right now, right?
Yeah, yeah,
But you
yeah.
can reduce the scope. Or you can say, okay, this is a little bit risky to use this part of the feature, so maybe let's hide it for now, right?
Yeah, yeah,
But
yeah.
not to experience the failure. But I saw many examples um, of the co- um, of the quality, which I was thinking that it is bad quality, but for the customers, it was really bringing the value. I saw um, um, an office worker who experienced the system crashing few times a day. Okay. So I was thinking really bad quality when I visited this site and I was seeing that, oh man, what we have delivered. And I was really that time, trying to understand why asynchronously it is crashing. But the user was not complaining, saying, "Oh, it doesn't matter." But what I really value is the user experience and the design of the front end, right? It is really following what I have on the paper, what the customer is telling me. This is logical, so I can do my job really fast, and it doesn't matter that it is crashing as for now a few times. Okay, it, it was even, after some time, not noticeable for him, right? Um, but when I also saw a very, very bringing value dashboards, but those dashboards are being created for 40 minutes at the end of the day, the user was frustrated because they want to go home just to, check the numbers at the end of the day and go home. But they need to wait to have another coffee and to wait for the dashboard being created. So they were getting frustrated, you know? So the
Mhm.
quality really means different. For the user. But when you know where you are and you are very honest with your customer, you can address this situation very constructively. So, yeah, communication, data, and understanding where the risk versus value is, so we can then constructively address this situation. That's my
Uh,
solution. It's very simple, but being
Very simple,
honest
yeah.
with the customer, it's very important. Then you're building the
Absolutely.
trust, right?
Absolutely, Rafal. I just love this point of yours. Especially in situations like that, you need to actually take your customer in confidence. You need to have that looping with him and understand and, explain him. If you're having that rapport with your customer, there's nothing like that. And that's the reason, that was the major reason why, Rafal, when you went to the location also, and when you saw the system got crashed, but still your customer was having that trust in you. He says, no problem. You followed the entire, the chronology, entire order. So I have no problem with that. So that shows, Rafal, that you are having a very good rapport with your customer, and that's a main thing for a quality analyst and for the quality consultant. So that's a very good key takeaway, and I just love this, this approach from your end. Really, way to go, Rafal. Now, Rafal, how would you like to, shed some spotlight, into you offering challenging software solutions for, top tier companies?
I would say in top tier environments, complexity is not only technical, it's organizational. Many teams, many
Mhm.
handovers, many uh, incentives, and this kind of things. So the hardest part is aligning the work and the system of work, so to support the truth and to make sure that the truth can follow and ownership stays, let's say, intact, right? Um, my focus has become this build decision grade clarity. That's very important point, I would say. Um,
Mhm.
what else? Not perfection, not bureaucracy, just clarity, right? What we know, what we don't know, what we risk, and what we do next. That's kind of lessons learned and spotlights. I would phrase it like this. Mm, the real product is not the code. It is the reliability. Um, Reliability of the organization's decisions about the code. So the real product is not the code or the manner of building the product, but it is how we are discussing about the quality of the code, and more
Mhm.
importantly, how we can make this discussion really understandable at each level. Uh, that's for when you are working for top tiers, you have at least 3, 4 levels of the
Mhm.
stakeholders you need
Yeah, yeah.
to feed almost with the same information, but it's completely different when you are phrasing
Mhm.
that, when you are delivering it. For the technicians, when teams are talking to each other, they are focused on the interfaces, integrations. Um, when you need to take a decision now with your PMs, EMs, you need to talk about mostly about the risk and the value. And when you are talking to the sponsors, it's a completely different discussion
Yeah, yeah.
because you need money, time. You need to you need to how to say it, negotiate, right? Negotiate. Um,
All right. I think, that gives me an idea. And, you have actually summed up a point really well. But since you told me that, when you work for, these top tier companies and you're providing, software solutions for them, it's not only about the technical aspect, but it's about the organizational aspect. When it comes to the organizational aspect, it's about bureaucracy. But let's take a case like this, Rafal. Suppose, like, Rafal, you are trying to, solve the issue and it's a complete bureaucratic approach from a very large company. And, they're taking time to, make a decision. So for them to, make a right decision, and suppose if they are having too many questions, from their end, that you would like to, them to solve, how would you like to, simplify them? What is that right, what is that correct answer that you would like to give them? Because it takes too much delay and all of that. So in that situation, what is that one point that you actually give them and say that, this is going to solve your problem?
be focused on the root cause, right? When we are talking to the, let's say, PMs or EMs, and when the technician is saying, we cannot, let's say, export and import or exchange the data between one system and second one, okay? Like synchronize, let's say, list of the employees in the organization, very simply. And technician is saying, I cannot synchronize those because I have a problems. And there is very often the question, how many you need to synchronize? Let's say 10,000, fine. And how many you have already synchronized? Um, 8,500. Oh, so we are 85% good. No, we have a problem with the synchronization. Let's be focused on the root cause why we are not able to synchronize the missing 1,000 or 2,000 and a half, right? It's it's to be focused really on the root cause to make the decisions and um, the questions which are bringing us to solve the problem, not just trying to be satisfied that we have 85% of the employees synchronized, because we have something in the software which is preventing us from doing the real synchronization. That's easy. So be focused on the root cause and also tell to the stakeholders, this is the risk, this is the consequence. Then we need a time to find the root cause to solve the problem, not to speak about how many and what is the percentage. It doesn't matter, right? We need to solve this problem because before the delivery. So focus on the root cause, trying to find really the source of the problem, solve it. Um, don't look for the overcomes because you will only spend time on it. You can even manually synchronize another 1,000 of the employees, spending 2 weeks about it. If you would solve in 3 days the root cause, then you are good for the next weeks, right? And for the
Yep.
new employees coming.
Absolutely, absolutely. That's a right point, Rafal. Really interesting. Now, Rafal, can you give me a deep overview, on the quality engineering and the DevOps culture, that talks about, the dev and operations team working together nowadays to, achieve the business goals, monitor them, and improving them together.
Uh, that's that's you already defined the DevOps culture. It is really um, designing the value together with the customer to do the promise to all together to translate the expected value into the solution, which is the IT delivery, and then plan the indicators or agree the indicators, and then make a promise, and then prove by the experience, by the logs, by the information you are uh, collecting when the software is running, and um, you can really collect a lot. If you have a software, piece of the software, configurator of your what of your car, for example, and you are stopping at one point, and many users are stopping at this point, something is not either with the software or with the marketing offer. right? And you can also see that 80% did not pass this point when configuring a car, right?
Hmm.
And you need to find the root cause. Why it is
Yeah.
happening? You can collect this information,
Hmm.
or you can deliver a feature to 1,000 out of 200 of millions of your employees, like Google it does, right? And you can check if there is a stickiness, if people are using it, if people recommend that, right? If not, maybe something is wrong with this feature. Maybe we don't have to invest the time into it, right? Um, that's really important. And this collection of this information only can happen when you have a business and technicians working together, because business even cannot imagine what kind of information we can collect, right?
Not at all.
Uh, but we can a lot. We can have a logs. We can have the frequency of the frequently used the most frequently used features. You can see which features are not being used at all by the users. You can have surveys being done, how satisfied your customers are. Um, all of that is a simple information on each and every of our uh, mobile devices, and you can collect that. You can bring a real dashboard saying, "You see, that's what we delivered last week, and this is now a feature which is most frequently used, right? Or this is a type of payment which is most frequently used." Um, so that's what can drive really the business decisions. That's a DevOps culture.
Absolutely. That's the right way, blending, making the work of the development team and the operations team very easier. Suppose, let's say, I'll give you a use case, Rafals. Suppose, you have a business, or let's say you have a particular customer who has no idea about DevOps, and he's very much new to all this entire technology, or let's say the cycle of DevOps. So in simple words, how would you like to, explain him that, this is DevOps and this is where, your work can be, done?
Yeah, it's important. Yeah, that's a very good point, because it's not so easy that your business partner is staying with you while the software is being developed by chunks, right?
Okay.
Very often the user can would prefer this situation. Okay, I can tell you what I need, and then in
Yeah,
3 months, please bring me the ideal solution. Um, because they are busy. That's important. They need to run also the business, so they cannot develop with you the software um, and spend time with you. So you need to convince them. That's a very important point you are touching. It's not by default, but when you agree the time of the windows, uh, to really have a synchronization with the business, and to have a very frequent conversations, even once a day, saying this is the prototype. This is we need your feedback first of all. Then how we will measure the satisfaction of your end users at the end. What kind of metrics you would like to see? We will bring it to the dashboard. Then the user is starting being interested. Wow, I will see how frequent this feature is being used, or how frequently this user journey is being finished, or when the user stick and stopped using the software, and why, maybe why. So they also understand that they need to invest time and they need to help, because they are the owners of the business. We are
Yes.
mostly we are creative. We know what the
Yeah.
solutions might be, but
Hmm.
we really need to make it um, useful for the context. And I saw as a QiPresence, I'm working with startups, and I really saw people saying, you know what I need to deliver. I know what will solve this problem. And I was saying, okay, fine, but we have a victory model, right? To go through the process, to go through the empathy phase, then stickiness, virality. Let's check how many customers you can find for this solution. And you don't need a solution for now. you can in the background, you can do for 4 customers this job manually, right? Uh, let's check how satisfied they will be with what you are planning to deliver, and if they would pay for you for this feature, for this system to you, right? How willingly they will recommend your software to the next colleague, okay? And then when this phase, let's say discovery phase lasts, right time, the colleague is saying, oh man, this is not, I do see there is a problem, they need a help there, but this application which I was having in my mind, it is not solving the problem. They don't like it. Why? I trust the process, go through the victory. Um, let's do the observations, the real
Mm-hmm.
checks,
Yeah.
experiments with the
Yep.
users, not investing too much time, but let's hear them. And then the solution was much different than he was having in his mind. But at the end, he's telling me, "Man, this is not a process. This is a machine to deliver the solutions, even if we don't know yet." And and I was asking, "But why you are so surprised?" This is what is happening in US uh, in the Silicon Valley, right? They
Mm-hmm.
listen to the people. They are doing the experiments, and I would say I'm not saying it is a Polish approach. I'm Polish, but you know we very often we believe that we know how to solve the people's problem, and
Yes.
and we are mistaken. Surprisingly, we are mistaken. That is why we sometimes are very creative, but we fail. It is
I mean,
changing, but
absolutely. Things are changing. IT is, making things very much swift, and everyone has talent. And I see a lot of talent, passion from Polish people, because I have, collaborated with a lot of Polish guests. So I really see a lot of passion coming from you people.
ah,
Seriously. Yeah.
thank you,
Yeah.
thank you.
Now, see, Rafal, I understand that, everything nowadays in technology, when you're dealing, or let's say when you're trying to give a deliverable to the customer before, in the pre-production phase, you're actually trying to, customize it based on their requirement. And even DevOps is also like that. So I understand the approach that you've just told me. It's a complete customization approach for the customer to, understand how the end-to-end process is flowing.
Yeah, that's really important because uh, today we are very competitive, right? The world is very competitive.
Yep.
Um, when I was trying to, for example, to measure in my parents' low house the Wi-Fi signal, because I was installing, let's say, Wi-Fi camera, CCTV camera in front of his house. And I'm downloading the application, and I cannot see the signal in the mm, uh, how to the value of the signal light right of the Wi-Fi in a few seconds. I'm just removing this application, and I'm looking for the new one because I don't need so many features now. I'm looking only for the
Yes.
yeah, if this is the right place of installing the camera, and I'm getting a lot of features, and I need to register. Okay, that's something which I would not use, right?
Hmm.
Um, so I'm not learning this application. I'm just deleting that, and I'm looking for the new one. And each and every customer has now the right, let's say, privilege to download the applications among of many, the one which fits to him. So you need to have an abstraction of your customers,
Yep.
know them, know the purpose of usage, like
Yep.
maybe for IT guys when they are measuring the signal across the complicated office design, maybe the pass through is important and few points of measurements. But for a guy who is just installing a camera in front of the house,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
All right. That completely gives the idea on it, and it's a very beautiful way of giving an explanation on that. Now, Rafal, like, are there any interesting success stories and anecdotes that you've experienced in your IT journey that you would like to share in this podcast session?
Uh, One of the success stories which really shaped me, and I keeping repeating to this situation was um, when I was getting mature QA engineer, and I took responsibility for this software for the Hamad Airport. I understood that the quality model is not a checklist, right? You really need to know the context of usage of your software.
Yep.
You need to know for which feature which uh, quality attribute is important to design your own quality tree, then uh, criteria, then metrics, and to prove for various features that quite different quality attributes are important, right?
Yep.
And
Yep.
today, when in AI world, when the students, but also colleagues, when I cooperating in as a QiPresence consultant, it's also important to understand what the AI solution needs to bring, right? If we want a software which is just telling stories for the kids, right? AI is very creative today, so it's easy to build this kind of software, right? Like a father, telling the stories in the night for your kids, and then you have some questions if it is not destroying a mind of my kid, or if the father really would like to be replaced by AI application, maybe not. Um,
Mhm.
that's what quality means today. If it is safe, if it is bringing, if it is for goodness, if it is only helping and not destroying our minds, if it is not redrawing a satisfaction from somebody against somebody or against the app. So quality is changing, and I understood based on the example for the airport and the um, simple situations I'm advising today, that there is no quality definition, and there is no, let's say, an institution which would be able to tell this is the quality for your app. You need really to design your quality tree, your quality attributes, what will be your, let's say, competitive quality attribute, what is
Mhm.
really driving a wow effect, and it needs to be uh, suit to the context.
Yes.
So it's very important to have this skill to understand that the quality model is only an example. It is something. It's an inspiration to to design your new quality attributes. Today, if we are talking about the AI, you need to measure somehow if it is only for good, if it is, let's say, what's the word? It's a new word, uh, humaneness. You know what I mean? It is how uh, how AI is acting as a human, and mm, if it is a human who is only thinking about how a good values bring to the world, if it is not um, creating a mindset or supporting a mindset which would be against the people, right?
That is true.
Um,
Mhm.
so how to measure that? How to design this quality? And those who deliver the models, they already know. But at the same time, when you are taking this model and you need to put it in the context like childhoodness, right? Then it's even much more individual quality attributes you need to ensure, and you need to prevent um, and address the risks which are behind, right? And you need to prove it that those risks are being addressed. I really like AI Act in Europe, which is being
Mhm.
introduced. A lot of people are against this law because it is slowing a little bit maybe the progress of developing AI apps. But at the end of the day, we need to make sure that it is serving us for the goodness. So what if we would a little bit delayed for 1, 2 years? It doesn't matter, right? But it will bring us only the good value, and we will not pay too much for all the side
Yep.
effects, right?
Absolutely. I just love the statement of the AI Act because, firstly, you need to understand what is AI and what are the complications that it can create if it is not used properly. So, as you just told me that, 1 to 2 years, if it takes also, it's pretty fine because first people need to understand how AI can be used effectively and how can it,
Yeah.
drive the best of best outcomes. So, I really would like to, laud the European Union for this to, come up with this beautiful initiative called the AI Act. Such an amazing act, really.
It is amazing act, and what is really new is that uh, it is referring to all the software which is being used in European Union. Whatever the source of the software is, it is it is um, not keeping the borders or not respecting the borders. It is just telling, okay, if you are in UA um, or EU, sorry, you need to be compliant with this AI Act, and
Yes.
you need to check your data based on which the model has been trained. You need to explain me the risks. You need to be very transparent. Um, that's really important. And people are saying, okay, how I can show you now the all the data based on which it was being trained? Fine. Maybe this is an index of the data, but let's start from something. Let's start from the responsibility, right? That's important.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Basically, as you were saying, that data has to be consistent. So during, when you're doing the quality, the testing, with respect to an application or anything that you're part of, or let's say in the DevOps, and you see that, the data is very inconsistent in nature. So has there been a situation where, you have directly spoken to the data scientist or let's say the data engineer stating that, the data is not good, I require some other set of data. So has there been a situation like that from your end?
Managing of the data in the organization is not to say a problem, but it is a challenge, right? And maybe not in a consistency when you are starting to introduce, let's say, machine learning and introduce this kind of systems in the organization.
Yep.
Um, but the identification of the sources of the data and a kind of unification of the uh, technologies, but also manners, how it is being stored and how it is being collected, how frequently it is being refreshed. Um, if we can trust this data in a sense that you can have a good and bad examples, and when you are bringing a software, you would like to support one of those, let's
Yep.
say, approaches. And you need to have a kind of approval path for the
Okay.
learning data for the models. And this is a huge amount of the data. So as your question, how to make sure that we can rely on the data? Who would be
Yep.
able to review that? Nobody, of course. So you need to introduce the tools which are analyzing the data and dashboarding that, saying, okay, this is biased a little bit in the right, and this is biased a little bit to the left. So
Mhm.
are we
Mhm.
going to somehow address this bias? Because
Indeed.
otherwise it will not be objective. If it is not objective, it cannot drive straightforward organization, it will be shifting left or right, because or we will be taking a wrong decisions with this small percentage into one of the directions. So it's really important to understand how objective the data is in uh, um, in the domain in which it is going to support you, and very difficult. I would say that's the most challenge now we have. It's really the data consistency, as you mentioned, but also if it is objective, right? Today, you know, AI Act is treating, for example, the data or the domain of HR, right? Like interviews or supporting the uh, mm, hiring process systems are at the same risk almost like a medical systems, right? Because you cannot use your system for selecting the candidates if it is really not objective. If it is preferring man or male versus female, right? It cannot be like that. And how to prove it that your data is really not promoting one of those? Uh, Very simple. But I really like that it puts at the same level medical and HR at the same highest risk level of the risk. Uh, that is why I really like AI Act,
Mhm.
because it all of that is about the responsibility, and the responsibility is referring to the data, the consistency and objectiveness of the data.
Absolutely. That sums up the point for me, Rafal. So, Rafal, before we actually conclude our podcast session, let's take a lighter route. All this while I was completely, bombarding you about quality consulting, about your journey, then about TMAP, then all those, those four techniques, those different patterns about the things that you were just talking about. So now at this time, I'm going to go very non-technical, nothing about your journey and just about your likes and interests. So, are you ready with the first question of the rapid fire round, Rafal? You can
I'm
talk to
ready.
me. Yes,
Let's
yes, yes.
switch. I got it. Thank you.
Yeah, yeah. So the first question is, so since you're based in Poland, Rafal, what is your favorite, let's say, extra class football team?
Uh, I'm based in Gdynia. So that year, actually, the team from Gdynia is back to the Ekstraklasa. So it is Arka Gdynia. Arka Gdynia. I'm supporting the team because I live, 200 meters next to the stadium.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
so yeah, it's very even how to say it spontaneous to go to the match when I see the lights uh, under the stadium. So Arka, that's the answer.
Okay.
We are
So I
back
think
to
that's why
the
you're
extra
wearing
class
the
after
black
a
color
few
shirt.
years
Yeah.
of the gap there.
All right. So I think after a few years, then the team is back and in a in a charge, right? Doing really well.
Yes, yes. Now we are sufficiently good to be safe.
Amazing. That's pretty good, Rafal. So that's good to hear. Since you're based out of, let's say, you have that proximity of 200 meters from from your home to the stadium. Did you ever have a chance of meeting a player of Arca?
Of course, of course. I had some of them are almost living were living in the same block of flats, so we had the beer as well,
Okay.
even. And there was a time I was inviting a groups of kids to the stadium to see the match, and then after we had conversations with the players. Now the team has changed because it was a lot of transfers, so I'm not very familiar with them. I even not know all the names of the whole 20 something team. But yeah, I liked spending time with sportsmen because they are introducing, this um, believe in and this changing mindset. So they know that
Yes.
if they would practice enough, they will be better and better. And sometimes for the kids, for young people, today it's a challenge to believe that what I need only it's a time, practice, 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 and be a
Hmm.
friend with somebody. to succeed. But yeah.
Indeed, indeed. Absolutely. Now, you told me that, you grew up watching and, supporting Gdinia's team, Arca, since a long time. Now, having said that, now you're not pretty much sure that, what is the playing 11 and, what are the, who are the players in the team right now. But when you were growing up, who was your, idol in, let's say in Arca, like you love the most, your favorite player?
Um, there is a Rafał Siemaszko. It's our, let's say, uh, highest scorer, I would say, right? And I have a lot of pictures with him. There was also a day when the team was going to the capital city, Warsaw, for the final match of the Polish Cup. That was few years ago, maybe 2018 or 17,
Mhm.
and we were just giving a five, and I was asking him, please score at least once and using your head, and imagine it happened. Imagine it happened. So it was 1-0, and he scored by his head, and then it was 1-1, and in additional time, one of another players was doing a fast run, from the half of the field, and he really scored. So it was 2-1 for us, and we had a very pleasant days in the city that year when the team was back. So Rafał Siemaszko.
Right. So I mean, he even has your name also, Rafal. So maybe that, connects you more to him.
Yeah, now he is. I think he's in the Polish parliament after
Oh,
this.
wow. That's a pretty big leap, and he's doing really good, I believe.
Yeah, he is supporting the sport, right?
Very good, very good. That's good. I'll, definitely check about him because, the favorite, trust me, I'm a huge fan of your Polish player, Robert Lewandowski. I just love his scoring ability. He's a goal scoring machine. Trust me, he needs to win the Ballon d'Or sometime. Rafal, I really feel this.
He scored the last match as well.
Yes.
That was important. Yeah, he also didn't or hasn't scored, having a very ideal situation. And people remember sometimes maybe more that that he hasn't scored versus that he
Mhm.
scored after a few
Yeah,
minutes.
yeah, yeah.
But yeah, he's getting older, but he has, I think, right place in the history of the football. In Borussia
Yes.
Dortmund, then
Yes.
yeah,
I feel, he
in
should play for
Germany
Premier League.
mostly.
Yes.
Mm.
In Germany, in Bayern Munich. In Bayern Munich, he
Yeah,
was good, but he was not a fan favorite as compared to Borussia Dortmund.
he was not.
He was not a
What do you
fan
mean?
favorite. Fan favorite was like, what I'm trying to say is in Borussia Dortmund, people loved him. But in Bayern
Yeah,
Munich, there were so many players that he did not fit in that kind of, that kind of lineup.
right. Yeah, maybe by the supporters, not so much,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
he has the value inside the team, and the team was supporting him to score.
Yes.
So I remember one last of his matches in the league when he was fighting for a kind of border in the number of goals being scored in the same year, and he scored in the last minute to to align the same number as the biggest players in the league over the years.
Mhm.
And I remember like Miller was really passing the ball to him to make it happen. So he was supported by the team. That was a great team, I think. Uh,
It
uh,
was.
yeah, it was.
It was 100%. I feel that, he should go to the Premier League and play for, teams like Arsenal or Manchester United. He'll be really perfect there. Trust me, or Liverpool for that matter. He'll be a
Mm,
superstar
yeah.
in the Premier League. Yeah. All right. So, Rafal, since, I'm Indian and, I come from the Indian origin. So I'm pretty keen to ask you this. Have you ever tried any Indian food or, you like to try any Indian food?
I cannot name it, but I was in India two times, in
Okay.
Hyderabad. I was
Oh, right.
yeah,
Okay.
I have still some connections with these colleagues because as a team, Polish and Indian team, we delivered this software to the airport in Doha or Dausha, and we were creating a great team that time, and we spent 7 years together. So I was visiting Hyderabad, and I remember a lot of delicious food. At the same time, I wouldn't be able to name it. But yeah, we had a great evenings. It was very hot. A pleasure sitting in front of the restaurant and eating green food. So yeah,
Okay. Green food. Yeah. Vegetarian food, of course. So what
of
was that
course.
food? Yeah. So you can name that food and I can, help you out with the name if you're okay with that.
So I'm saying I cannot name it.
I mean, you can just describe about what that food was like, not the name. You can just describe what was the food. It was a rice dish. It was a wheat dish. Like, what was that exactly?
A mixture, a mixture. So I cannot I cannot help to describe it to really identify.
Okay. Okay.
But
Yeah.
I remember that of course it was rice, food, a lot of
I got the
vegetables,
name.
yeah, green ingredients.
Yes. Yes.
The taste, which was let's say from one side. Spicy, and from another side it was sweet. So a mixture of all of that I really liked.
So
Most
I'll tell you
probably
what
it
that
was a
is.
little bit adapted to us as a European guests.
I guess that
So
would be.
yeah, most probably.
Yeah. Probably that would be, biryani or pulao, because these are the two dishes. Biryani is very famous in Hyderabad, and pulao also has that kind of thing. So maybe you're referring to that.
Mm, yeah.
Okay,
Um,
perfect. All
and
right.
a lot of colleagues from India were coming to Gdańsk, so we had also uh, uh, possibility to try a Polish food, to serve the Polish food. Um, I think it is not so delicious as Indian, but
Mhm.
yeah, my colleagues also were trying to um, or very open to try some Polish meat and these kind of things.
Okay. Nice, nice. That's very good. I mean, our people, whenever they go to a different country, they love trying new things. So, that's how it is. All right. So, so if I have to, ask you, like, what are your favorite three restaurants of Gdynia? What would that be? Three favorite restaurants.
Um, yeah, we have a few. There is one which I really like. It is some Mexican one.
Okay.
Um, they are serving a delicious food there, which is hot on the hot plates, and this is a chicken or whatever the meat
Okay.
you wish. And I like the atmosphere there when people are just enjoying the food. There is one which is Italian. I'm visiting Italy
Hmm.
the summer. So in winter, I really prefer this one a little bit to dream and to plan on my vacation. So
Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
there are a few. Not the Polish ones are the most famous or the best ones. As I said,
Mhm.
Mexican and
Mhm.
the two Italians one I would have in mind.
Okay, perfect. So when we talk about Polish food, Rafal, what is your favorite Polish dish?
It's a duck of my mom.
Hmm,
So
okay.
duck with some apples, right? Being prepared by my mom. Mhm.
Yeah. Trust me, in the world, everyone always has this, and the food made by their mothers is the best food. Trust me, everyone. I'll
Yeah,
also say the same thing, and you would also.
I have no doubts
Absolutely,
that
very nice. So, do you have any favorite Polish song that you always like to, hear?
I hear a lot, and the favorite one might be um, by the team which is Fish Amade. This is my favorite group, and there are few of songs from this group. Those are quite, quite close to the life, to the reality. And there is one which is being called okay boomer. And you know what the boomer is? The boomer is somebody who is coming, who was born as a in the times which we are calling the boomers. So after the war, you know. So today the boomer is somebody who is around 50, 60. And it means that you don't understand the word today because
Boomer,
you're a
yeah, yeah,
little
yeah,
bit,
boomer, I got it.
yeah. So it is okay, boomer.
Okay,
The song
perfect.
I really like.
Okay, perfect. So suppose let's say, Rafal, I come to your home city to Gdynia. What is the place that you would like to, tell me to visit?
Yeah, we have the sea. So first of all, we have the boulevard, so a pedestrian along the seaside. It is 1 kilometer or even more when you can really see the sea, enjoy the food or beer crafted there. Um,
Okay,
yeah.
crafted beer. Hmm. Right.
Mhm.
That's interesting. Okay, that's nice. Now, the final question to you in this rapid fire round, Rafal. What was the first car that you have purchased?
First car, it was a Fiat, Italian
Fiat.
one,
Okay. Yeah, yeah,
being
yeah.
produced in Poland. Very small one, the smallest uh, almost they ever built. Yeah, it was Fiat Seicento.
Okay, that's nice. That's interesting. Okay, that's pretty good to know. All right, Rafal. So finally, thank you so much for taking time from your busy schedule and being part of my podcast segment. I just had a lovely conversation with you today. Talking about your take on the TMAP voice, about the Sogeti's approach, and about all these other techniques that you were talking about. Then about your journey, then about that interesting success story that you had at Hamad Airport. That was such a lovely thing to hear. And your different and your best advice. When you're working with the customer, always work hand in hand with the customer, and that will actually solve multiple problems. So this is a very right approach, and it will definitely be an inspiration for our listeners who are hearing this across the world. So finally, thank you so much, Rafal, for taking time and being part of this initiative.
Thank you so much, Akil. It was a pleasure talking to you. Thank you for all the interesting questions and following my thoughts. I really enjoyed the end of the conversation, which was surprising me a lot. And I reminded which car I bought as the first one because it was 25 years ago. But
Yeah,
thank you for that. It was a pleasure. And yeah, hopefully it's not last our conversation, but I'm following your podcast and I really recommend many interesting conversations.
thank you.
So yeah, please continue and I will follow that.
Definitely. Thank you so much, Rafal. That
Thank
really
you.
means a lot. And don't be surprised. I'll come to Gdynia also. I'll visit you, and then we can have a lot of good conversations about different things. You can take me around your city, and I'll definitely be there soon.
I treat it as a promise, so let's do that.
Done deal. Perfect. All right.
Cheers.
All right, listeners. On this note, this is your host, Akil Navluri, signing off. We will be back with another podcast episode with another eminent industry leader very soon. Till then, keep listening. Goodbye, stay tuned, and au revoir. Thank you.